my wife's new friend and how she's unhappy with our marriage. So here is the context of my situation. My wife and I have been married for 26 years. We have 2 grown children, D21 and S24, that still live with us. My D is currently in her senior year of college. Our marriage has been relatively good except for some hiccups like all couples go through. We were happy raising the kids while enjoying some time alone on dates, but not many. I admit we had been complacent and stopped concentrating on our marriage while raising them. They were both in very competitive sports that occupied every moment that we weren't working. It was fun and we miss it, but also a relief that it is over. Now we have time to do things together, so I thought. In full disclosure, I must admit that over time in our marriage I became much a drinker. It was innocent at first. A couple of beers during the game, a glass of wine while cooking dinner, cocktails in the pool, etc. I never drank during the kids' activities. Things escalated after the kids graduated and I found myself bored. I would at first drink on weekends, then during the week, and finally almost every day. I would hide what I was drinking. I went from being a happy drunk that passes out to one that wanted to pick fights about everything. I had become a functional alcoholic. I have worked 7 days a week for over 25 years. I took every hour of overtime unless the kids had activities. I hardly ever missed a game. Our house and cars were maintained. The bills were never late. I helped around the house with chores. I made my wife feel special when she was depressed about work, her weight, friend issues, etc. The only problem was I would drink to numb everything else so I could get through the day. What once was used to ease social anxiety fears soon became a physical necessity. I drank at the end to stop the withdrawals. I knew it was wrong. I actually hated the taste of alcohol and used to tell myself, what the fuck am I doing while drinking it? Fast forward to today and I have been sober for 4 months because I realized I only have so many days left on this planet and that is not the person I want to be. I went to detox because the physical aspect was tough. I also attended AA meetings almost every day for over 3 months. I felt great and alive once more. Unfortunately, during my time at AA, I discovered my sponsor wasn't keeping my shares with him anonymous. It had been something I worried about because he had shared stories about other alcoholics with me and I knew it wasn't ethical. I soon found myself leaving AA and finding an alternative support program called Smart Recovery. It is a smaller support group that is more science-based, which suited my mindset considering I'm not a very religious person. It worked for me and I was happy once again. One day while coming home from work I found my wife had knocked over some plants on a rack that got dirt everywhere. I was upset and expressed it but nothing like I would have during my drinking stage. While I was cleaning it up, she had a breakdown. She started bawling and told me she wasn't happy. I assumed it was because of menopause. She said just because I gave up drinking and was happily sober, she is still dealing with the pain she suffered over the past couple of years. She said I mentally abused her and was not the best husband while drinking. I know I fucked up but didn't think all those years I was that bad. There were times we enjoyed when I didn't go overboard drinking. I told her I would try to do better to understand her feelings. I even offered to go back to AA if that would make her happy. She said she didn't know what would work at this point because she knew she loved me but wasn't sure she was still in love with me. During my recovery I had a medical episode that sent me to the hospital for a pulmonary embolism and my heart was in a fib. I was in a lot of pain and my wife stood by me the entire time. To my surprise, the blood work came back with a high protein count that concerned the hematologist/oncologist. He wanted to rule out cancer and after several agonizing weeks he said the levels were fine, but I will need to be screened every 3 months to rule out multiple myeloma. My wife told me that she would be there no matter what. In my mind I rationalized that the term, no matter what, meant we were either separated or together. I now live with fear of a bad diagnosis and of my marriage ending. Shortly after this medical episode my wife became friendly with her new stylist. They would text back and forth, and it was evident she was very happy. Her friend was doing a new diet, exercise program and wanted my wife to do it alongside for moral support. I agreed because I knew it would make her happy to lose some weight and feel better about herself. Over the next couple of weeks, we discussed how she wasn't happy in our relationship and I tried to make her happy by doing things around the house, making time for dates, just paying more attention. She got annoyed that I was being overwhelming. On her birthday we had planned to go shopping because that's one thing she loved to do. I don't, but it's her birthday. While out and about she disclosed that she was going to see her friend and would meet the family later for dinner. I was a little annoyed because we had plans for the day, and I felt like her leaving on her birthday was out of character. We have a tradition that we spend time with loved ones on birthdays. Anyway, things got heated, and during the argument she told me she was also going to her friends on Thanksgiving. I felt like it was a way to throw a dig at me because once again, Thanksgivings were for family. That day didn't go well, but for her birthday I sucked it up and we went to dinner without a problem. The next day was a different. I just kept thinking about her telling me she wasn't happy. I thought back to when she was happiest was when her friend was texting her. This woman is a motivated newly divorcee that is a social influencer. She promotes the idea that a woman doesn't need a man in her life even though she has a boyfriend, the handyman that helped renovate the house she and her husband bought a few years ago while still married. I know, I was being that creepy stalker husband, right? I hated looking up social media to find out more about her and regret it now. I have stopped looking up stuff because it just makes things worse. She seems like a nice person, and outside the context of our situation I see her and my wife being good friends. I soon found myself jealous because I couldn't make my wife happy, and this woman could. I soon found out that she now used Instagram for texting, which since we were both on it as best friends, I can see she was active. There was times during the night she was messaging her for hours. Eventually it was all the time. We would go out for a walk with the dog and she was on her phone sending videos of the dog to her friend. Going on a date, she shared a video of the restaurant to her. Watching TV, the texting was non-stop. Cutting a Christmas tree down and again sending stuff to her. Leaving to bring my daughter back to school, she messaged her that she was leaving, when we were coming back, and she was on Instagram messaging her the entire ride home. I said something and she blew up at me. I had wanted to discuss our daughter's emotional state because her boyfriend just broke up with her after 4 years and was a mess. She cold-shouldered me for most of the ride home. This jealousy has caused many fights to the point one night she proposed that we get divorced because I don't trust her, but we can remain friends. We went back and forth, and we both agreed we didn't want to end the marriage but need to see counseling individually. Mine for addiction and my trust issues, and hers for her unhappiness, whatever is causing it. She said she didn't want to be seen as a failure in our marriage. I said I don't want to lose the love of my life. We hugged and I still felt uneasy. I didn't sleep all night and still can't easily. I have lost about 20 pounds. And have been an emotional wreck since. Her therapist told her to give me 6 months, and if she doesn't see the changes she needs to make her happy, to go forward with the divorce. Since all this has happened, I have had multiple panic attacks and suffer from anxiety. My therapist recommended medication. Being sober I really don't want to, but I'd be willing to do whatever need to be done to save my marriage. They seem to help. I don't know why I'm jealous of this other person in her life, but I am. She has had many other friends but none that pull her in the way this woman does. I want to be understanding and feel if we were in a better place in our marriage, I could see this for what it is, the beginning of a good friendship. In my mind I look at it as this plain and simple. I see my wife as not being happy, she has a new friend that makes her happy, and she has threatened divorce. My therapist agrees the situation will cause anxiety in any relationship. She says I need to try and focus on myself and not obsess about something I can't fix right now. To focus on my sobriety. Ironically, during all this I have had zero craving for a drink. It is the last thing I think about. The health scare has changed the way I think about life. I want to enjoy life to the fullest, experience everything. I made a bucket list. It's not for things to do before I die but things to do now. I told my wife and she understood why but didn't seem to want to be involved. I asked her if she had one and she never really opened up about it. I always thought after the kids moved out, we would be able to travel the world and experience new things together. I want to be able to live life to the fullest with the woman I fell in love with. I have been trying to be somewhat distant but available to her. I stopped trying to win her back and instead am focusing on myself. She had mentioned we will need multiple therapy sessions before we can even consider a future for ourselves. I hate it because I always thought we would retire and grow old together. Our future is so uncertain. I must live with the fact that every 3 months I may have bad news about the cancer, and our relationship was the one thing beside having the kids in my life that keeps me going. I now live day to day. I don't know exactly what I'm asking for in advice except that writing this down helps. Perhaps someone out there has had a similar experience and can relate? I posted something similar on an AA Reddit but found all they wanted me to do is go back to awe. I do like some of the program but find he religious and trusting another person difficult. The camaraderie I guess is the best. In all actuality Reddit seems to be the best therapy right now. Feedback isn't one of the strengths of AA meetings. You share but don't hear back about advice. If you got this far into reading this, I thank you. I know it was long, but I had to get it all out there. First of all, congrats on the sobriety. So, I think the thing is that you're still looking back on your drunk days with booze-colored glasses. When she broke down and told you that you had been mentally abusive, your internal response was, I know I fucked up but didn't think all those years were that bad. They were that bad. In addition to working 7 days a week, which leaves no time to work on your relationship, you were drunk the rest of the time. Think of it this way: addiction is like an affair. You prioritize your substance of choice, you sneak around, you lie, you project and get snappy. It's great that you're working on yourself, but you've done a lot of damage, and you've changed. It's going to take a lot of time to heal that. Has your wife shared her perspective on how bad those days were, when you were working 7 days a week and drinking most of the time you were at home? Have you validated her perspective as true and accurate, or just continued to insist that things actually weren't that bad and you had good times? Would I look really stupid giving my boyfriend a beanie because I'm jealous? So my boyfriend has a beanie that he really likes and looks really good wearing it, but sometimes I get a little jealous because it was his ex's that she gave to him while they were dating. I'm considering getting him one for Christmas, but I also feel like I'm being a bit toxic by doing so. Also, I'm not good at picking hats for people or myself, so I'm also concerned that I won't be able to find one that he likes more. Side note, I do have other gifts for him, but I was also considering this and don't know if I should go through with it. How would you feel if he says, thanks for the hat, but never wears it because he really prefers the one he has? From his perspective, he isn't wearing it because it's from an ex-GF. He's wearing it because he likes it. Just ask him if he'd like to get a new beanie. If he doesn't, you'll just have to cope. Fiancé, 26 male, of 5 years cheated on me, 26 female. My fiancé and I have been together for 5 years, and friends for 8. We live together in a studio apartment, but keep mostly separate finances, and have been engaged for only a few months. I woke up at 3 a.m. to find him sexting a close friend of his, who he'd gone out to dinner with earlier that night. I confronted him and looked through his texts a little, but it was pretty upsetting, so I didn't go much farther back than messages from the past couple of days. He swears it's only been going on for a couple of weeks and that nothing physical has happened, but obviously I know now that he isn't trustworthy, so who knows. As anyone would be, I'm entirely devastated. We were planning a wedding, though haven't put any money down on it yet, thank God, and a whole life together. He threw all of that away for a couple of spicy texts. I feel so naive and foolish for trusting him. I really thought he was something special. Guess not. I can't make heads or tails of this situation, and I don't feel like I can turn to anyone in my life because it will be too mortifying if anyone knew that he did this and I stayed with him. My logic brain is telling me that I need to return the ring and start making a game plan to move out. My feelings brain is telling me that this is my best friend, my life partner, the father I chose for my future children. Doesn't he deserve a second chance? Anyways, I know this is a decision that I have to make for myself, but I don't want to make it too rashly because it is a big decision and I'm feeling extremely emotional right now. I want to weigh both options carefully. I know exactly what I will be sacrificing and generally what to expect if I leave. What I don't know is how to go about forgiving and rebuilding trust while still protecting my heart if I choose to stay. And what's the endgame? Is it possible for things to ever go back to the way they were? If yes, what are some steps we can take to get there? I'm so hurt and lost. I'd really appreciate any perspective or guidance on this. Do you know what you will be sacrificing if you stay? Your mental health, your sanity, your self-respect and your heart. How are you going to trust him when you have a kid, overweight, leaking boobs and getting no sleep? When he would cheat now when everything is easy and perfect and no stress from raising a family, do you not think he will cheat when you are at your lowest and can't leave because you just had his baby? Should I leave my soon ex-boyfriend my furniture in our apartment? Me and my boyfriend have been talking about breaking up a lot and it seems like it's happening soon. We once talked about what would happen to the furniture since we lived together. Pretty much all of it is mine from my old room: bed, desk, couch, kitchen utensils, wardrobe, TV. I would have to move back to my parents since I can't afford my own apartment, which really sucks for me. But my boyfriend doesn't have any family in the country or any money saved up, so he would end up with no bed if I took everything. Now what is the right thing to do? I'd like to keep my stuff, but it feels wrong leaving him with almost nothing. Your things have some value. Can your ex be able to pay you for any of them? By giving him everything for free, you will be paying to furnish a whole new household in the future. As someone who left a 16-year marriage and had to start over from scratch, after paying for a good portion of the furniture in the house that I walked away from, take your stuff. Or ask him for money for what is worth to replace. When you are able to move out of your parents' house, you will be glad you have your stuff or the money to replace it. You leave the relationship with the stuff you brought into it. Plenty of countries rent out rooms, apartments that are fully furnished. He will be fine. Don't give away your stuff, because he didn't put any foresight into what he would need, money, furniture, if you broke up.